Hello. Hello, everyone. I hope the technology doesn't let us down tonight. Uh, haven't live streamed for a while. I set up a um, advice to go out, so I don't know how many of you got that, but anyway, I had to rejig my technology this evening because I don't usually use this camera. So hopefully those of you who joined the pre-advice can find us on this thing. I'm going to write in the chat. So if you are just joining us, won't you let us know which city you're joining us from and your name, so I can welcome you and we can start chatting. I'll give everyone a few minutes to join the room. If you would like to ask a question, which I'm sure will happen, it always does. As I say, it's been a while since I did a live. I used to do these every single weekend, and we had a live audience that joined us from around the world, but it's been a while, and so here we are. So I hope that everyone can find us on this live stream, and if you're waiting on one of the other windows, I hope you can find your way to here. So, okay, so what are we going to talk about this evening? This evening, restarting this series of relocating to Italy, whether you're visiting or you visit regularly and you just love Italy like many of us, or you're seriously thinking about pursuing your dual citizenship, or you just love Italy and you want to visit. We're going to cover all of that tonight. So this series started some time ago. I chatted about my own journey in becoming a citizen of Italy, how I came to Italy, where I lived, what I did. So we're going to cover all of that. So if you're joining us tonight for the first time, my name's Amanda. Won't you drop your name and city down in the chat box? And if you would like to ask a question, which I'm going to cover in upcoming weeks, won't you put it down in the comments, not in the chat box, but down in the comments, so that I can pick up your questions and answer them in future weeks. We'll be covering various things to do with Italy, what visas are available, how you could perhaps come on a student visa if you're a young person or a youngish person. We'll be covering the elective visa for retirees or those with passive incomes. We'll be covering all of this. So it's a chat. My audience usually joins from around the world. I did give advice this evening, but we're starting again. So hopefully some of you can join us. So I'm going to chat about how I came to be in Italy for more than a holiday. Let's put it that way. So the title of this evening's video I made to be the top cities to live in the north of Italy, because obviously Italy is quite a big place. A lot of people visit the south on holiday and they're beautiful places. To be in the south, I'm not picking on the north for any reason, just because I happen to live here and have great experience, but I have traveled the length and breadth. I know the south of Italy very well. I know the north of Italy very well. So wherever you are in that equation, you're covered. Okay. So yes, I have lived in Tuscany, my very first visit here, and perhaps I should start with that story. So yes, came once on holiday to Liguria with a friend, absolutely fell in love with it. I'd never been, I was already, I think about 42 when I first came to Italy. I'd been all over Europe, but I'd heard, Italy has problems, the mafia, the stuff we hear about Italy. And so for some reason, it just hadn't come up on the radar. I had wanted to go, but, it was always upcoming. And so flew into Liguria, had 2 weeks, absolutely loved it. Took a train one day when my friend was visiting his mum and family and went down to Lucca in Tuscany. And Lucca is one of the most beautiful intact villages in Italy. The walls are still intact. It's a medieval city. It's been there for a very long time, has beautiful architecture, lovely churches. That was my kind of introduction to Tuscany. Fast forward about 4 years on, and I was in England, and got an offer from a friend who had a villa looking onto Venice, onto Firenze, and he was going to Venice and needed somebody to help him in his villa because he had regular guests coming from the European Union. And he asked me, would you look after the villa for like, I don't know, 2 months. So I was thinking of having a sabbatical. I had sold up my company. I was just ready for a bit of a break. I was looking for a change. So he said, would you consider going and running the villa, which, as I mentioned, looked onto Florence, onto the plain that goes towards Florence, in a beautiful little town called Bacco. Quite near Montevarchi, that area, sort of beneath Florence, near Pistoia. Those of you who've been to Pistoia, which is between Lucca and Florence. So anyway, yes. So long story short, took this position to work in the villa, prepare the villa for guests, get everything ready. And of course, the magic thing, I spoke English, but I didn't speak one word of Italian. Literally, not one word of Italian did I have. I think I could manage ciao at that stage, and that was about it. But anyway, I was keen. So long story short, I landed up doing that villa for the season and going back and forth to a little apartment I'd got in the beautiful city of Lucca, which I'd visited before on holiday. And so I came to be a resident of Lucca and lived there for quite a while. And in fact, still go back to Lucca. It's kind of my home city in Italy, and always has been through the 20 years I've lived in the north of Italy. And Lucca's kind of, northern Tuscany, going towards, Pontremoli, and then you come towards Parma, and then you come to the north. So yes, it's always been on my radar. I have lots of friends there. I still go back regularly. Do love Tuscany, but Tuscany isn't the only thing in Italy. Obviously, all of us have fallen in love with the movies and the books about Tuscany and the dream, and yeah, none of us are immune to that. But let's look at maybe some demographics tonight, if we're going to look at some of the northern cities. So the demographics of Italy are that 6 million tourists visit Italy on a bad year, and it stopped a little bit during COVID. Obviously, people's plans were curtailed, but we all wondered, how long would it take to come back? Well, it exploded as soon as COVID was done with. Everyone was back in Italy. So, if anything, I think it made some people even thirstier. But we're talking about people who perhaps have been here on holiday a few times and now are considering coming here to make it their home. And if not make it their home, perhaps come and spend half of the year here and half of the year wherever they come from. It could be the States, could be Australia, could be New Zealand, could be England, could be somewhere in Europe. The point is that people love to have this option of, maybe if they're not ready to move permanently, that they love the option of coming and spending a lot of time here and then, going back if they don't have permanent residence. So we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of how to get residence and all of that. We're going to cover this on each edition. We're going to cover a different subject. But tonight I just want to explore my experience of the North and the cities that I've discovered, because I travel extensively in Italy, always have. So I know Italy pretty well. My experience of of helping other people relocate here, and my experience of why I fell in love with it, why I'm still here, why I haven't run away from Italian bureaucracy screaming over the horizon. And so, yeah, that's what we're going to cover tonight. So, let's start at the beginning. So, from Tuscany, where I spent 2 years in Lucca, there was a job offer for my partner, and he said, would you like to go to Milan? And I said, yeah, I, I'll think about it. I was loath to leave Tuscany because I was pretty much in love, and I'd only been there a year and a bit when this happened. But anyway, I thought, let's give it a go. Milan is kind of the business center of Italy. Went to Milan, started teaching English in Milan, got a little apartment in the center, and literally taught in every quarter of Milan. So I guess this is going to be the Milan and Como edition. I think in the years I've taught in Milan, have taught in every neighborhood, every quarter, from Via Dante, the Duomo area, where the beautiful Galleria is. I've in the Brera, where the art district is and the galleries are. In the north, in the south, where the Naviglia are, with the canals and all the little antique shops and the lovely restaurants, and the night area where lots of tourists really enjoy going to, the Naviglia, the Da Cesana. La Sena is also really beautiful. So there's lots of different areas of Milan. It's not all, people just rushing past each other in the street as New York is famed for. It is a business city. Stuff does happen. Just about everything that happens business-wise in Italy happens in Milan or surrounding. The only satellite of Milan that does a lot of international business, there are other cities like Bologna and Torino, and we'll cover those. But Milan is kind of the engine room of a lot of companies, both international who have a base in Europe. Not always Italian companies, also some international companies. So obviously it attracts a lot of people who may want to land up in Italy because their company may have some kind of affiliation in Italy, in Milan. Rome, on the other hand, is much more a bureaucratic city. It's where the parliament sits. So a lot of the embassies are there. A lot of that sort of stuff happens. It's not that nothing, fashion-wise and business happens there. They often have a branch there too. But really, I think Milan is kind of the beating heart of the business world. And it's a bit more fast-paced than Rome. Rome is more laid back and also lovely, beautiful, interesting architecture, lots of sights to see. Who hasn't loved Rome? Who hasn't fallen in love with Rome? So yes, a lot of the stuff that needs to get done in terms of media and TV is also based in Rome. So anyway, here we go. So let's look at Milan. So what has Milan got to offer? Because Milan gets maligned a lot by a lot of people. People say, it's a business city, it's not that interesting. People who've come to Milan and said it's not interesting really haven't perhaps seen past the courtyards, or maybe they've been to Castello Forzesco and they've seen a little bit. They've walked in Parco Sempione and thought, oh, well, it's a park. But there are so many elements of Milan that are fascinating and interesting. And the other benefit of Milan is that if you happen to have a business there, or teaching there, or consulting there, or whatever you're doing, or just want to retire and you want to be near a big center, it is where all the medical specialists are based. It has numerous hospitals, major European hospitals. There's a cancer research center that is, one of the top in Europe. There's a very big heart hospital with cardiology, Mozzino. So many different specialities that are based. So, I mean, there are numerous huge teaching hospitals. So all the specialists, whether it be, oncology, orthopedics, whatever, cardiology, whatever specialization you may need, they're based in Milan. That doesn't mean that Torino and Bologna and Rome, Amalfi and everyone else doesn't have specialists, but generally those people have to travel to Milan if they need specialist treatment. Okay. Of course, you could be happy anywhere else and be covered. That's fine, but I'm just talking about Milan at the moment. So Milan has that. It also has very good universities. So 4 or 5 that I can name by off my one hand that are internationally recognized. Bocconi obviously is the financial and business university that everyone knows about, but there's also Milan Polytechnic, which is amazing. University of Milan, which is Città Studi, also near the center. Then there's Cattolica, which is another major university. So there's a lot happening around Milan, in Milan, and many people do their tertiary education, after school education, and graduate and perhaps do some kind of training in and around Milan. Okay. What happens to people who live in Milan is that they have the benefit of being 1 hour from everywhere. They're 1 hour from the coast, they're 1 hour's drive from beautiful Piemonte, which is the region I now live in, with all the winelands and the beautiful food and the beautiful cities of Piemonte, like Alba, Asti, Torino, all these lovely, beautiful cities. And the Lake District, of course. So above Milan is the Lake District. To the east lies Garda on the way to Venice, near Verona. And then here, directly above Milan, if you were driving straight up to Switzerland, is Como, or Como as the Italians call it. Como, as we usually say. Lake Como is, 70 kilometers long. It's got the 2 legs, the Lecco side, the Como side, beautiful cities, beautiful little towns on the lake, tumbling down to the lake, charming, with wisteria draped villas. People just fall in love with towns like Bellagio, Moltrasio. These are dream places. And so for the let's say after the second year of me teaching Milan, I found a place in the province of Como and used to go in by train to Milan every day to work. Taught at various institutions, various schools, and also worked privately. So yes, I guess most of my life in the north has been about Como, which I really love. Como as a city is lovely. It's human shaped. In other words, it has a beautiful Duomo, a cathedral, lovely shopping center, lovely little old cathedral called San Fedele in another region, another neighborhood of Como. And then if you just go up the lake, you go past all these amazing, amazing little towns, Cenobbio, Moltrasio, Torno on the other bank. And just as you go up, it just gets more and more beautiful. And of course, an American happened along the way, and George Clooney moved in halfway up the lake. And I don't know how often he's there, but anyway, he sort of, made lots of Americans come to look for his villa. So if you get on a boat to go up Como, you will inevitably hear Americans or just people in general saying, "Oh, I wonder where his villa is." Anyway, yeah. So, and then of course you can go up to beautiful Bellagio, have lunch for the day and come down. I've taken thousands of tourists up there, friends of mine, friends of friends, friends of friends of friends of friends, and just people who really wanted me to help them have a lovely day. I've had some of the most gorgeous lunches, beautiful sun-kissed days, been on canoes, been on sailboats, sailing. You can sail, you can do all the water sports in Cornwall. It is a border town, so it borders onto Switzerland, and just there is Chiasso, and then you go on to Moltrasio and Lugano, and that's another lake, but that's in Switzerland. Then if we move this way, still an hour from Milan, we have Lago Maggiore, which is where I've now been for the last year. Um, Absolutely, I've always enjoyed Maggiore. Again, it's an enormous lake. It's almost an inland sea and has many beautiful cities on it. You've probably heard of them. Stresa has always been a beautiful city that has been the playground of the Liberty set, the sort of English British aristocracy always came to Stresa because it has the beautiful Borromean Islands off it, and it's just a magnificent place to visit. I mean, it is extraordinarily beautiful. Apart from the beautiful Borromeo Palazzo, there's the magnificent gardens on Isola Bella, there's Isola Madre, which is more natural with its amazing gardens. There's Isola Pescatore, which is a little fisherman's island. It's, this is just off the coast of Stresa, which you can just sit on a languid summer day with your feet in this beautiful water. I swim all the time. Some people prefer to swim in a swimming pool, but swimming in the lake is part of living on the lake. And the mountains are the backdrop, these enormous mountains. And then beyond that, the Swiss mountains, which have snow on them at this period. Of course, in summer they don't have snow, but they're always there, this beautiful surround of the mountains. A more extraordinarily beautiful area than the lake from the bottom, where there's cities Arona, and then little places like Leza, where there's just water sports and yachting, and it's just an extraordinary place to be and to live. If you follow my channel at all, I hope you do, and if you don't, I hope you subscribe tonight and give me a like. You can like this video right now, or if you watch it back later, you will see that I posted various shorts and videos on this region, and also Como through the years, and also Milan. So if you're curious about these cities that I'm talking about, you can just go and have a look and check them out. Okay, so we were talking about cities. So we have Garda over here, then we have Como, then we have Maggiore, and then Liguria and the coast. So Liguria is the slither of land that runs up right to the top to France. So up at the top here, we border with France on the extreme east, and towards this way, where Mont Blanc is, where the Mont Blanc tunnel is, and Switzerland. And then we come down here, Switzerland, we border with Switzerland along the top. So the border of Italy in the north is like that. It's literally not a straight line. It's between Alps. So the Alps form their own border, obviously, which if you've ever flown into or out of Italy, you will have crossed the Alps, no doubt, unless you've come from the south. And so, yes, the border is kind of like that. So then after Switzerland, there's the Austrian border going towards, the Venetian side on the east. So on the extreme west here, we have Liguria on the French border, then Switzerland, then Austria, and right the way to Croatia on the extreme east with cities like Trieste. But there are also beautiful cities not so far from Milan that you may like to explore. Let's say you'd love to be near Milan, but you don't really want to be in Milan because rents are pretty expensive in Milan. One of the biggest headaches I have when I'm helping people maybe find a place to rent or find a place to buy is that Milan is hugely expensive in terms of Italy. It isn't expensive if you compare it to other cities of the same caliber, London, New York, any of those cities, Sydney. It's probably on a par. It's a city in which it doesn't have enough accommodation, much like London. And the students who come there, international students from all over Europe and Italy, take up most of the apartments. And then there's the population of Milan who live there and own their properties. So they are building buildings all the time. Milan has grown exponentially since I first started to teach there in 2003. There's whole new areas, the City Life area, the Gaio Lenti area where the UniCredit building is. So there are lots of new developments, and especially when Expo happened some years ago, 2014-15, Milan literally was developing before our eyes and really became a city that was full of growth and new exciting innovation, and still is. So has lots of five-star hotels, has lots of industries that support a lot of people who live in the hinterland of Milan, south of Milan and north of Milan. We're talking about the north right now. So a city that could be close, one of them is Como that I just mentioned. So you could be in the province of Como about 30 minutes on a direct train into Milan, as I was for many years. And that's beautiful. You can live in a village, you can live in as rural as you want, always in a little town, which means you have cafes, bars, public transport. I had a direct train, 5 minutes walk from my house, straight into central Milan. So these places exist. The actual city of Como would probably take you an hour on a commute. Como has the benefit of two train lines. So we have the train line that goes through Switzerland where the faster trains go. And then we have the other line, which is the Nord line, and that stops at all the villages going towards Milan, and also goes into the center of Milan. So Como has the benefit of those two train lines. And where I am now in Maggiore, we have the same thing. So the fast train line leaves Centrale in Milan and goes through Stresa to Switzerland and onwards from there. And that's the fast train. Obviously, the tickets cost a bit more, but it's perfectly wonderful and possible way to travel, and much faster. But you have to book. You might be lucky to get a ticket at the last minute, but generally you have to book, especially in the season, in summer season when it's full of tourists. But there exists also the other line that leaves from Porto Garibaldi station, where it stops at every stop along the way, and you can come to the lake and get off and do what you like. You can buy a week's ticket or whatever you want, or maybe a 3-day ticket, where you can actually get on and get off this train wherever you like. So you can explore the whole of Lake Maggiore on the train. You don't need to hire a car. There's also wonderful on both lakes, Como, Garda, and Maggiore, all three lakes, should I say. There is wonderful boat transport, ferry transport, traghetto as it's called in Italy, and you can visit literally every little town. And this is a lovely way to see this region. And I do it in summer. If I'm going to visit friends for lunch, I'll go on the boat because it's lovely and it's part of the day out. It's really lovely. There's also bus transport. It's super, super connected. And that is one of the main benefits of the North. Okay. Another possible city near Milan that is not actually Milan, where it might be slightly easier to find accommodation, is Monza. Now, Monza's name is famous because the Grand Prix Formula One race takes place there. Around the circuit of Milan, and it has an enormous park that stretches for kilometers. So it has this beautiful green park, which are kind of the lungs of Monza. But Monza has become more and more connected to Milan because there are faster trains, more train lines, more options. And so you can be from Monza into Milan, 30 minutes max, maybe 25. And there are some direct trains that stop at every stop along the way. And then once again, there's the usual where you can go on the fast train. Okay, so Monza is a good idea if you want to be near Milan and you haven't thought about where you could possibly be near Milan that isn't as expensive as Milan for accommodation, transport, all of that. Thank you for the like, and please drop your name. As I already mentioned when I introduced, please give us your name and the city you're watching from. It helps me a lot to know what's happening. And as I mentioned, you can watch this back immediately or share it with friends. I'll be sharing the link to it on my Discover Italy page on Facebook. But you can leave a comment with a question for future upcoming discussions in the next week and every Sunday from here on out as to where you might like to ask questions about. You might have a question about, I don't know, whatever you might like to ask about. Please ask it down in the comments, not in the chat box, because it's easier for me to go into the comments and answer you. My email is also in the description box. I'll post it again in the description box, along with some links to some other videos I've already put up of things you may like to watch about the north and where you could live. So we were talking about Monza. So Monza is a good option, again, near Milan. There are also other cities in my direction towards Lake Maggiore that you could consider that is sort of halfway between Piemonte and the lakes. But, you know, my thinking is if you're going to be an hour out of Milan, you might also live on the lake. It is magnificent. I swim every day in summer. We do water sports. There's beautiful walks. Everything I need is in this town. I want for nothing. There's a hospital nearby. If I needed a major specialist, I could go to Torino or Milan, but Milan would be quicker. There's a 50-minute train to Milan, which is, you know, direct and fast. Again, I have two options because we have the line that stops at every village. But there are lots of villages along the way and small towns along the way that you could consider that are really, really beautiful. You may have visited Stresa, you may not have. Beyond Stresa is towns like Baveno along the lake, beautiful. And then towards Verbania, another gorgeous little town that's easily connected back to Lombardia because, you know, Lake Maggiore is divided with a border down the middle. This side Lombardia, this side Piemonte. So it is two different regions, you know, Piemonte and Lombardia. Lombardia, the city of which Milan is the capital, so to speak, and Piemonte, which Torino is the capital of. So, and then going up toward the lake, you get Verbania, which is you can put your car on the ferry and drive to Lombardia, to Milan, whatever. And if you went further up, you go to towns like Canobbio and then Locarno and then eventually Lugano in Switzerland. So kind of 2/3 of the way up, it becomes Swiss. But yeah, it's a beautiful lake. It's enormous. It's the second largest lake in Europe. It's just enormous. Garda in terms of Lake Garda in terms of area, surface area, is slightly bigger than Maggiore. But for me, Maggiore has always had my heart. I will another time cover the eastern side of Italy. Of course, Venice is everybody's dream, and beautiful cities that maybe you haven't even considered, like Trieste on the eastern coast, on the limit, the border, you know, the eastern border of Italy, and provinces that are absolutely beautiful, like Friuli and Alto Adige, which borders with Austria, which has beautiful cities like Bolzano, where Italian and German are spoken on a daily basis. and then coming down more towards Verona. Beautiful cities. Lake Garda is right there. There's beautiful little towns and cities all the way up Garda, you know, Gardone, Limone, and up to Riva del Garda right in the north. They are magnificent cities, whichever region you go, and you're spoiled for choice. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it can be really hard sometimes to know, where am I going to go? So, there's the Lake District, then there's Milan. I don't particularly want to be in a big city of Milan, but so we're going to talk about some options, and I'm going to cover more options that you can look at around Milan, in the hinterland of Milan. And they are amazing and beautiful places to live, two of which I lived in Como, near Como, near Monza. There's a city between Monza and Milan called Lisoni, another beautiful small city where you see the whole ring of the Alps around you. The beauty of living between Milan and the extreme northern border of Italy is it has amazing diversity. There are mountains, there are plains, there's farmland, there's all the wineries of Piemonte and the wineries towards Garda and Lake Garda itself and Lake Como itself, and its beautiful cities right to the north, to the plains where it runs up to Switzerland. And of course, always the towering mountains. On this side, the border with Switzerland, and these beautiful Alps that usually have snow in winter. And then this pristine blue water with these tumbling villages full of blooms and beautiful smells with jasmine and wisteria in the summer, places you can eat without breaking the bank, and places you can really live a dream life. So I know quite often we see movies and we see Italy in the movie, or we see, promotional videos about Italy, and it seems like a dream that's not attainable, but it is very attainable. It is a step-by-step process, and usually I'm the person doing that step-by-step process with the people I help. So I'm going to get a drink of water because I've been talking a bit, and give people time to maybe write a comment. Great. So I mentioned that in weeks to come, we're going to cover different aspects. So some of the questions I already have, which I've been collating this week, I'm going to answer in next week's edition. But please, in the interim, if you watch this back, you maybe have joined halfway. If you watch this back, you can leave me your comment. Please also go in the chat box now, tell me which city you're joining from and your name so I can welcome you. And if you haven't subscribed yet and you haven't liked the video, you can like the video right now. Just hit the like button right there. It helps me enormously to know that I'm making content you want to watch. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe now. And in the coming weeks, perhaps your question can be answered. Put it in the comments, and I will certainly do my best to answer nearly all of them. I certainly read all the comments. So yes, I had a break from doing online webinars and videos because I had a big move and I had, quite a lot of things to manage. But we used to have a lovely get together every Sunday for a couple of years, all the way through COVID and the year after COVID. So I hope we can get back to that and you'll join us again. And if it's interested you what I've spoken about tonight, the cities, in the hinterland of Milan, around Milan, in the Lake District, and where I live on Lake Maggiore, and you're interested, then join us again so that we can talk about what it means, what it would cost more or less to rent. I will look at maybe some properties. This is a live edition, so I can't put images up, but I can certainly show you some idea of what properties cost here, how difficult it would be to get. In another edition, we're going to cover the options to come to Italy, either by dual citizenship, because there are a lot of Italian families who immigrated to America, to Australia, to UK, and all over the world, who have recently decided to take up dual citizenship, or perhaps want to start the process of seeing if they can attain that, because obviously it's hugely advantageous to have dual citizenship, because it means you can come to Italy and live if you choose to, and register as a resident, and have the benefit of our health system, which, although everyone claims it's free, we pay a small ticket to avail ourselves of services and scans and x-rays and specialists, but it's very affordable, and very grateful for it. And but something to consider is every Italian and every resident in Italy that's working legally, that is, and I don't know how you would go about working illegally, because it would be impossible these days, I think. But we contribute towards the servizi sanitari, the health service, via our tax dollars. So our tax money that we pay on our income, and all the taxes we pay, and we pay a lot of taxes in Italy, refuse tax, all kinds of taxes, plus our income tax, our earnings tax, that goes to run the service. So it is obviously taxpayer funded, but it is free at point of treatment. So if you had an emergency in Italy and you were taken to a hospital, you will actually be looked at. You will not be left, waiting in the foyer for them to see if you're insured or not. But I always suggest, if you're not a permanent resident here, you must please buy travel insurance. It's essential, because in COVID times, if you were obviously at death's door, they wouldn't leave you without treatment, but you need insurance. If you're in an area that's inaccessible and you have to be casevaced out, or you're skiing in Italy and same thing, or an ambulance has to be called to get to you, it's much better to be insured. I'd never suggest anybody travels without insurance. So if you're working towards one of the visas, and this is not the visa edition, I'm going to cover that in the next one. So leave me your questions on whatever questions you have, whether you're thinking, could I study? Could I come to Italy on a study visa? What am I going to do about my dual citizenship if that's the route you're pursuing? I just have a dream and I haven't decided how I'm going to get there yet. Can I get a job? I'm going to cover all of this one by one. We will not go into personal details, because then one person, covers the chat and it's not that interesting for others. So we will deal with question by question. That's why I'm asking if you could possibly let me have your questions in advance, and I will answer them one by one. I will also answer questions that have already been given via my Facebook pages and various other channels, and people who have regularly asked me, what do I do? How do I come? I've been helping people with their bureaucratic problems in Italy for about 22 years. So I think we've covered just about every eventuality. I won't be going into tax questions. There are various tax people in Italy we work with that speak English. So if you need that kind of assistance, we can cover the sort of elements, but we're not going to get into, how much will I pay or if I earn 10 euro, that sort of thing. But yeah, the tax implications of Italy, will cover that too. We'll also look at the elective visa, which is what everybody wants to know about. Am I eligible for it? How do I go about getting it? It's applied for in your country of residence. Before you come to Italy, there's a very strict and particular process for applying for this visa. You can't just come to Italy and then say, well, I'm staying. But all of that will be covered in forthcoming editions. So I hope this first little edition has whetted your appetite as to whether you'd like to think about um, seriously making your dream of coming to Italy more, to give it more concrete, to put more, to make it a firmer thing. And whatever the questions are, whether you concerned, will I be lonely in Italy? I have a list of things that I generally always answer on Facebook if we're on a chat or whatever, that I think apply to any region and any situation. And that is that it might seem like a lovely idea to go for the €1 house in Sicily that you've seen all over the internet. I mean, people have literally made an industry and a job out of, going and buying a €1 house to renovate and setting up a YouTube channel so they can make money with people logging in every week to say, well, this is what I'm going to do. I've got €1. Let me go and buy a house in Sicily. Let me renovate that house. There's a whole lot to be known about that. And I would suggest that you don't try and take somebody else's vision of what they thought they could do and take that as gospel. And there's a lot of this happening on Facebook. People say, that's what you have to do, that's what you have to go. And that's somebody else's mistake that was made, or maybe even a success that happened. But your situation needs to be thoroughly investigated before you even think about this. So I always suggest that you come for a holiday first. And then if you have some rights to come, in other words, you have a dual passport, come and rent, come and look around, because people often say to me, shall I go to Abruzzo where there's the, advantageous tax rate? These areas that are underpopulated because young people left and went to the north to the cities because of work. Yes, they do want to repopulate them, and that was the vision behind the €1 houses as well. Is these villages are deserted, so they have no services. So you're not going to get blinding internet there, blindingly fast internet. You're probably going to have to travel to hospital or even to a doctor. You might have one or two little shops. You might have one or two little cafes. It may be sufficient for you. Maybe that's the life you want, is to live this very remote life and build up this village with a couple of other people. But I'm simply saying it's always a better idea if before you actually jump in and buy a property, there are lots of things to know. And plus, you're dealing with the extra layer of complexity that you're dealing with another language, you're also dealing with another culture, and you're certainly dealing with another business culture. So it's always better to come and visit, to have a look around. Have a look around. Have a look and see, do I really want to be in the south? Would I like to be at the Amalfi Coast and have millions of tourists and pay the enormous rent? And maybe that's perfect for you, and maybe your budget allows you to be there, and that's marvelous. That's wonderful. It's a beautiful place to live. Maybe you would like to be inland somewhere in a smaller village. Maybe you'd like to be in Puglia and Lecce. There's so many beautiful places to explore. Tonight we just touched a little bit on the north. From my point of view, having lived in Tuscany, as I mentioned, for the first 2 years in Lucca, I would have happily lived there, but circumstance meant that I went up to Milan and started working and started my career for my second life, so to speak, in Milan. And so I know the hinterland of Milan, I know all around Milan, but I know most of Italy because I've traveled north, south, east, west, and I'm constantly still traveling and enjoying it. And it is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place and so much to see. And that's why millions and millions of people keep coming and dream of living here. So if you're still dreaming of living here, and I know there's lots of you, and I meet you all the time, and we're going to meet online every week, then don't give up that dream. And just because somebody else said, oh, you'll never learn Italian and you'll be lonely, or when you're old, do you really want to be so far from your family? I live across the ocean from my two children. One is in Canada and one is in South Africa. And, it's hard, but if you want to live in Italy and you have family back in America, then you can fly and visit them. It's not ideal. Obviously, it's easier if you're in UK because you can perhaps, visit your elderly parents as as the occasion calls for you to do, and that's a little bit easier if you're close or if you're somewhere else in Europe. But it's doable. Uh, and of course, there are sacrifices to living everywhere. But a lot of people in the States constantly contact me to say, I've been dreaming about this for years, waiting till I retired, waiting until I have a pension. Because, of course, one of the things we will cover in the elective visa is what it means to have a passive income. What is a passive income? What classifies as a passive income? And not simply just what is a passive income, but what is excluded from that and what you have to do to satisfy the authorities before you even come to Italy. So, in other words, at your consulate, at your embassy where you live, wherever that is, as to how you receive those funds. You need proof of those funds. You need proof that you have an income that you can live on. And of course, if you have family, then the figure that you require, the amount is more. So we're going to cover all of these in separate editions because there's really a lot to cover tonight. But tonight I just wanted to kind of introduce the idea that there are other cities beyond Milan, that in the hinterland of Milan, there are these other amazing cities in which you can easily have a quick commute. As I've mentioned, quite a few of them. Monza, around the lakes, an hour an hour from Milan. There are all kinds of cities and smaller towns that you can be near. This coming weekend, I'll be spending a couple of days in Torino talking to a group of people about what happens in Turin, which is another beautiful city 1 hour from Milan. The whole wine region of Piemonte, which has beautiful cities like Alba, Asti, all of them beautiful places where you could retire and live, that have hospitals, that have services that you need, that have public transport that you need. So we're going to cover it all. So I'm going to wrap up this first edition by saying it was lovely to have you join me. Please like the video. You can watch it back. You can share it with whoever you want to share it with. I see that the like button has been hit. Please go and like it. You can like it right now. And I ask that you share it with your friends and perhaps invite some of your friends. I will post it up on my Facebook group, Discover Italy. If you'd like to join Discover Italy, advance notice of when a video will come up. If you've subscribed and you've hit the bell, you will see when the next live is. It'll be next Sunday. I hope Sunday is a good day for you. Sunday's always been the day we did lives in the past, so we'll continue to do it on a Sunday evening. 9:00. It's 10 o'clock here, just about. In Italy, I don't know what the time is where you are, but you can watch it back when it suits you if you can't join us for the live. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for your questions. I look forward to them. And I look forward to this adventure of helping as many of you as I can to answer questions about the beautiful, beautiful place I live and the lifestyle that you dream of, eating nice fruit, fresh fruit from the market, fresh vegetables, cooking Italian food, and living in Europe among the architecture and art, which was certainly my motivation for coming here. So see you on the next one. I hope the technology was good for you and you could hear me well and the lights weren't too blinding. I find them quite bright, but without them you can't see me. So look forward to the next time. So hit that subscribe button, go and like this, and share it with whoever you think might need it. And I'll see you on the next one. From Italy, here on Lago Maggiore, it's -2 degrees tonight. It's pretty cold. It's the first really cold day that I've felt this winter. We have snow on the mountains, but it's beautiful and sunny in the day. See you on the next one. See you next time. Bye for now, and wish you a wonderful evening. Bye. Bye.